Good morning. It is Friday, September 20th. I'm Katherine Hessell. I'm really stressing the Friday. New this morning, a small fire at a popular St. Andrew's cinema in St. Charles County. Authorities identified the teen whose body was recovered from Coldwater Creek. A 9-year-old girl abducted as she got off the school bus just blocks from her home. Then if we walk, this is a parking structure here. The bottom section completely closed off, completely flooded. They're finding bullet holes actually in their front door. There's one in this white door here. I'm standing along Highway 94 here. You can see no cars are coming. Now the water hasn't reached over the highway yet, but look at this. This is how close it is. This is what people are concerned about. You know, the house behind me, this is the one that we're looking at. I'm gonna step out of the way so you can get a good look at this here. Because I was just able to talk to the public information officer with Maryland Heights. She tells me that an officer was shot here. He was taken to the hospital. He is in stable condition. Officers here from the North County Cooperative were just at that market a little over a week ago. Hopefully this parking lot's going to be packed later tonight. That's because this is one of 9 restaurants that's donating their proceeds to the family of Officer Langsdorff tonight. This, where I'm standing, is run over from the Mississippi River. And really, this is the visual I want you guys to see. Water from the Mississippi already breaching the levee here in Winfield. I'm along Main Street here in Grafton, and I've got to show you this. Behind me is a nice man. He's got to take a boat to work this morning. You know, I didn't even mess with the hair today. It is that humid out here. I have a great humidity hairspray. Not worth even bothering. I'll take a quote out of my mother's book, and she says, if you stand out too long in this humidity, and today's one of those days, you're going to just look wilted. Yeah, we're kind of at the end of the parade route here, so we've got a while until the parade gets to us. Now that we're in position here on the front of your car, what is going on? What is this like? Yeah, you know, I'm just here casually jamming out to some Gloria. I think a lot of people are this morning. Thanks, Darion. Governor Mike Parson's new crime-fighting plan goes into effect today. 25 state troopers will assist local police. Many will be out on the interstates. Some, though, will work with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. Others will assist U.S. Marshals and investigators for the U.S. Attorney's Office. And St. Louis City Police are a part of the Stanley Cup celebration for this Blues season. Each active commissioned officer who was employed at the time of the Stanley Cup win will be wearing these 2019 Stanley Cup Champions commemorative badges. Well, it's going to be a great time, but we also have a warning for Cardinals fans before the NLDS comes here to Busch Stadium on Sunday. Be careful when buying those tickets. The Better Business Bureau gives tips on how to avoid being scammed. Use extreme caution before buying tickets from someone on the street. If you're buying tickets from someone online or through a third-party site, buy from someone with a history of satisfied customers. If a seller transfers you from one site to another site for a private transaction, that's likely a scam. A house fire in Pagedale just hours ago leaves a 75-year-old woman homeless. Firefighters responded to the house on Leroy near St. Charles Rock Road around 12:30 this morning. The woman says that she was woken up by smoke detectors, smelled smoke, and then found the fire in the back of the house. She was able to escape, but the fire quickly spread, and firefighters say that the house is a loss. Also caught on camera, a wrong-way driver traveling down Manchester Road for more than 2 miles. A De Pere police officer tried to warn the driver, but the vehicle didn't stop.
Vehicle going wrong way westbound eastbound lane to Manchester.
Yeah, police say that the officer tried to pull the car over, but it kept going until after the De Pere city lines. Well, when the officer finally approached the car, he realized that the driver was suffering a medical emergency and called EMS. Tonight on Fox, the guessing game continues in an all-new episode of The Masked Singer. I'm personally terrible of guessing these, but 3 celebrities have already been unmasked. Contestants Layla Ali and Johnny Weir open up about their time on the show. Fox News' Ashley Dvorkin has the scoop. All right, take a look at this. This needed a little bit less get up and go here. This was a crazy sight that was caught on camera at Chicago's O'Hare International Airport. An out-of-control catering truck nearly struck an airplane yesterday. Now, American Airlines says that the truck's accelerator got stuck, causing it to spin out of control like that. Look at it, just going in circles. Nobody can stop it. They don't know, oh, run towards it. No, back away from it. Now, they ended up getting another truck there and ramming it. And then you can see it topples over. The incident is clear. Good news is no Injuries were reported and just one flight ended up getting delayed for about 10 minutes. Yeah, let's get a check in the weather with meteorologist Chris Higgins. Chris, don't even think about bringing your pets to Atlanta. Stop there.
Other than the game being there, who would want to go there? It's going to be like 95 degrees.
It's much nicer here. Right? This story is crazy to me. At least 2 Belleville residents say that they've been bitten by groundhogs. Most parents admit that when it comes to Halloween candy, they'll take from their kids' sack a little bit, those trick-or-treat bags.
Okay, so when you go to the pep zone, number one, you got to bring your pep, right?
Got to bring my pet.
And it's all about the outfit as well. I know you're all about outfits.
I am.
And accessories make the outfit. So first up, when you're doing the pep zone, you're going to be doing it in a gym. It's very loud, so you got to wear a headset. So I know you don't like this because, you know, hair and all. But here you go. I'm just going to put that. Put that on there. Does that feel okay?
Oh yeah, a little snug. Good though.
All right. So good.
Yeah,
That's so you can hear. They can hear you really well.
Not just for looks.
No, but you do wear it well.
Thank you.
You ever been an air traffic controller? Okay.
No.
So here's the deal. Football. What do you know about football?
Hike.
Yeah. All right. Very nice. Hike. Very good. Because the football team will be there because it's a Friday, so we're getting ready for a Friday night football game.
Right.
So that's good. So can you throw a football? Let's see.
Yeah. Ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
You say hike first. Ready?
Well,
go.
Hike is when oldies.
It was what I turned 16, and this was our oldies. It was kind of like a throwback CD. You'll know these.
Let's name that tune. Let's
name
do
this
that.
tune. All right.
I should know these.
I dropped this on the way in here, so hopefully it's still. Can you help me out here?
Yeah, I'll help you out here. We're gonna put a little power on that thing and
power it up.
Play.
So these are the
oldies.
oldies.
Now you can hear it. Where does that little? We're just locking in there. Okay, here we go.
Play.
Sick and tired of hearing all these people talk about.
Katherine, that's not an oldie.
It's an oldie.
It's an oldie?
Yeah. It's on the oldies CD.
Who's oldies? You know, here's when you know you've jumped the shark, when you start hearing your music on the oldie station. What?
We're so old.
Are we that? That's
old. That's not old.
Try the next one.
Okay, the next one. That's probably just a one-off.
Here we go. What about this one?
Probably gonna be like some Beach Boys or something like that.
What, Beach Boys or maybe Backstreet Boys?
That's what I meant. I meant Backstreet.
Backstreet Boys.
You know, when they come off the beach, they gotta hit the back street.
And you go to the back street.
Yeah, exactly. Because if you're on Front Beach.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go one more. One more. Yeah. Let me see. I got this one.
Hold on. Let's get. Okay, we'll go 3. We'll just
okay. Yeah. Three. That's good.
Yo, listen up.
This is kind of a little bit. I feel like I can hear someone in the distance laughing at this. For the first time ever, the Washington Nationals hoisted the World Series trophy into the air, and at the center of the celebration was pitcher Max Scherzer.
It's really been quite a journey to get here, and you know, to see your son, you know, live out a lifelong dream of his. It's outstanding. It's wonderful.
Before Max was a World Series champion, he was a Mizzou Tiger and a Parkway Central Colt.
I can name a ballpark in St. Louis, and we've played there a number of times and had a lot of fun there.
Max's father, Brad, says he knew at a young age that his son had a passion for baseball.
To be honest, about 2 years old, I would come home and he'd be there with a ball and bat and say, "Dad, we're going to play down in the basement," and you know, during the wintertime and all that. So it was always that way. He always enjoyed baseball and he enjoyed athletics.
Max played baseball all throughout his years at Parkway Central High School. Brad says that's when a pregame tradition started that he's pretty sure Max still uses today.
What he used to do is go get roast beef sandwiches before a game. Before a game, he'd load up, he'd have like 3 roast beef sandwiches and eat that. I'm still sure he does that today.
Max was drafted by the Cardinals out of high school, but decided to go to Mizzou instead. Now, Brad says that Max wanted to make sure that he had an education and a choice of what he wanted to do in life. He says it took some of the pressure off of baseball, and it was the right move for Max.
Mizzou really developed him. They really did a fantastic job of improving him. So his strength, his abilities, his mental, the whole approach. So that was a really good choice for him.
As Brad and I chatted about Max's pitching career at Mizzou, an old friend who happened to be doing his daily walk around the park stopped by to congratulate Brad. Greg Vitello is a longtime baseball coach at DeSmet, and his son was Max's pitching coach at Mizzou.
I think in the dictionary where you see the word competitor, Max's picture is right next to that word. That's what he is. He's an ultimate competitor.
He remembers that first time he saw Max pitch.
We pitched against De Smet in a district baseball game. I can't tell you what year it was, but he came in relief, and I think his first 3 pitches hit the backstop. And his coach kind of rolled his eyes, and I kind of rolled my eyes, but he managed to get himself out of the inning. But we knew he was a talent then.
Vitello says that his son also knew right away that Max was going to make it big. He describes Max as a first-class guy and says a lot of that comes from his upbringing and parents.
You won't meet any classier group of individuals. I mean, like I said, I've known them for a real long time. They just, you know, there's nothing special about Max. He's just one of their kids, and they just enjoy, like, you know, watching him pitch.
Brad and Jan have watched their son pitch for years and weren't about to miss many of the playoff games.
October's been a crazy month, and I can only thank my business partner for kind of covering for me at work and all that, because I've been gone a lot, and I've kept Southwest Airlines in business.
They were there at Game 7 when their son became a World Series champion. On stage, Max pointed at his dad, a small gesture with a whole lot of meaning.
I saw him up on the stage, and we were able to get down on the field, and we maneuvered around there, and we finally made eye contact and all that. We pointed to each other because we both knew what it meant. We both knew the emotion that we had, the journey it took to get here, and just everything about it. And so, you know, he had a tear in his eye, and so did I.
Reporting, I'm Katherine Hessell, Fox 2 News.
That is such a cool story. Katherine did a great job.
We all know that phrase that there are heroes among us, and that could not be more apparent than in sitting down and talking with the Wirtz family.
I have been in Cambodia a week now, and my buddy and I are going to take a ride on the dirt bikes.
Scott Wirtz's parents, Dave and Fran, read through emails from Scott over the years.
Dad needs to just stop drinking soda and we'll be good to go. He needs to start drinking Propel. It has a sweet taste to it. Plus, if he was quitting for Lent, just tell him Jesus would be mad if he catches him cheating.
Dave and Fran, Scott's second mom, worried that deployments and war would change Scott's big, funny, outgoing personality. But it didn't. Starting school at All Souls and then moving to St. Richard's, Scott tried every sport, even skateboarding.
He was still a skater dude, and he had the hair, and Tony Hawk was his idol.
Scott played football at De Smet during high school, and after high school went on to wash windows at sports arenas.
He was an adrenaline junkie.
So it didn't surprise Dave and Fran when Scott joined the Navy and became a Navy SEAL.
He was determined he was not going to fail.
Yeah.
That was not an option.
Scott didn't fail. As a SEAL for 8 years, at times he couldn't tell his parents where he was or what he was doing, but he did tell them about his fellow SEALs.
Scott never had any biological siblings, but he's probably got more brothers than anybody.
Deployments were the norm for the Wirtz.
I got all the fun stuff to do, the fun mother stuff. Help me with my bills and call this person. And can you take care of this for me? Can you fax this? Can you, send money here? And which is fine. That's what, that's what you do.
In 2005, Scott retired from the SEALs. Within just a few days, government agencies were asking him to do contract work. And since he now had a little bit more downtime, Scott got into spearfishing and MMA fighting. One day he met and became friends with his favorite fighter, Anderson Silva.
Somehow the word got out, and everybody found out that Scott was a SEAL. And it ended up, Anderson was more impressed with Scott.
Last month, Scott was home celebrating his birthday and an early Christmas before heading to Syria.
He said he'd be gone for 4 months.
On January 16th, Dave and Fran heard that there had been a deadly bombing in Syria. For years, bombs had exploded near Scott, so they weren't concerned. Then they got a late-night knock at their door, and Fran thought that someone was trying to break in.
I go, don't open the door. Talk through the door.
Dave was initially confused, but when the woman at the door introduced herself, it became clear.
And as soon as she said DA, I'm like, oh my God. And Fran's like, what? No, I go, Scott's dead.
Since then, it's been a blur. They stood by the president at Dover Air Force Base to greet Scott's body as it landed back in the States. Dave says in that casket is his son and his best friend.
And he always said I was his best friend.
Dave and Fran say that if Scott had to do life all over again, he wouldn't change a thing. And if they could say one last thing to him, it would be this.
Thank you for being in my life.
Love you, man.
Dave and Fran don't know yet when Scott's body will arrive back here into St. Louis or when the funeral services will be held. Reporting, I'm Katherine Hessell, Fox 2 News. Bob McCullough is a man who doesn't mince words.
If it upsets somebody, too bad. And if that somebody is someone close to me who has supported me, too bad.
People all over the United States hung on his every word as he announced the grand jury's decision in the Michael Brown case.
They determined that no probable cause exists to file any charge against Officer Wilson.
But McCullough's story began when his St. Louis City police officer father was shot and killed. One of 4 kids growing up near Pine Lawn, McCullough was only 12 when his dad died responding to a carjacking. As a high school senior, doctors found a rare cancer in McCullough's leg and had to amputate it 2 weeks later.
They didn't tell me about it at the time, but the survival rate was incredibly low.
McCullough graduated from St. Louis University Law School. He spent 7 years as an assistant prosecutor before winning St. Louis County prosecutor in 1991.
In effect, my entire legal career has been in the county prosecutor's office.
11 days after taking office, Officer Joanne Liscombe was shot and killed.
She was a county police officer who was doing a pedestrian check up on Halls Ferry. And a few minutes later, somebody came by and found her shot and laying on the ground on an incredibly bitterly cold night, the whole time right there. And that was a case that, that was a massive case. That was an enormous case.
McCullough calls it baptism by fire. Then a few months later, in July of 1991, McCullough charged Guns N' Roses frontman Axl Rose with inciting the riot at Riverport. Headlines read that McCullough chased Rose all over the country, which isn't quite true.
I made 2 phone calls, and that was it. This was a guy who, if all fugitives published their schedule in Rolling Stone magazine and elsewhere, there wouldn't be any fugitives.
He picked up the brick and beat this baby with it.
McCullough tried cases himself and oversaw as prosecutors. On August 9, 2014, they were thrust into the national spotlight over Michael Brown.
And I'm very comfortable in saying that, I think we handled that incredibly well. We took everything that there was. I mean, that's where the experience kind of kicked in. I mean, I'd been in this job for, at that time, 24 years.
McCullough says his decisions in that case and for the last 28 years were based on law and not the court of public opinion. And that's why he won't be back for his 29th year.
Easiest thing in town, and I'd be, getting sworn in again next few weeks. If I'd have just said, hey, I'm going to recuse myself on this, but there was no conflict there. The oath that I took, actually, which is right here, says you'll support and defend the Constitution and laws of the state of Missouri. And there's no codicil in there that says, well, unless somebody's really yelling at you or you think it might hurt your political career.
McCullough doesn't know yet if Ferguson will define his career, but he has done much more than that. He expanded the domestic violence unit in the prosecutor's office, started a drug treatment and veterans court, and made working in the St. Louis County prosecutor's office a career for his team.
There are 3 people leaving the office at the end of the year. We're leaving with 95 years experience in this office. And that's being replaced by 3 people coming in with essentially zero experience, well, not essentially, with zero experience in this office.
His advice to his successor is to recognize the talent that he's inheriting.
Take full advantage of the experience, the expertise that is here and build upon it.
McCullough says when he took office in '91, his main focus was on victims. And as he leaves office, he says that working for them is what he'll miss the most. It's not the presidents that he met or the headlines that he made that he'll remember. It's the notes from victims' parents thanking him.
That letter alone, made the 28 years that I've been here worthwhile. Nothing else came along. There was nothing else about it. That letter alone made the 28 years worthwhile.
Reporting, I'm Katherine Hessell, Fox 2 News. On May 13, 2019, a man walking near a creek on the 100 block of Jerome smelled something foul.
He looked over and he could see what he thought was a body lying face down in the creek.
Captain Dennis Plews says the body was Ira Dickerson III, a 37-year-old who stayed at the apartment complex right next to the creek. There had been a big Cinco de Mayo party at that complex and Dickerson had been there. But now police are wondering, What happened in the 8 days in between the party and when his body was found?
We do know from the autopsy and from the coroner's report that he had been in the water for 3 or 4 days. So there's that time, probably like around the 11th back to the 5th. We don't know what happened.
The coroner also found that the cause of death was drowning. So another big question for police is, was this an accident or a murder? Plouffe says Dickerson was about 6'5" with an athletic build and known to get into fights.
Known to be a scrapper. I mean, he was known to get in fights and not back down and known to start fights, actually.
Detectives talked with the people who Dickerson recently fought with. They admitted to the fight, but said they didn't kill him. Plouffe says they also explored the theory that Dickerson was intoxicated and stumbled into the creek. But that didn't make much sense either.
Around that area, the weeds were so thick and so tall. And like I said, you know, he had no clothing on his lower portion of his body, and we searched through there. We couldn't find anything. There was no chance that when they removed his body from the creek that it came off.
Dickerson's mother, Cynthia, says that her son could be headstrong, but he was also very thoughtful.
He was my spiritual child. Me and him discussed so many things.
Dickerson's body was found the day after Mother's Day, and by the time Cynthia got the call, she already knew it was coming.
Never missed a Mother's Day. Call, come, something. And he did nothing. So something was wrong.
Cynthia believes that her son's death was not an accident. Detectives don't know yet, but they're looking for answers.
There's a lot of what ifs. We could what if this to death. Maybe he was in an altercation, a fight, somebody knocked him out and then threw him in the water where he could have drowned. Anything that the public could give us to help, because right now, like I said, we've interviewed 20 plus people and it's all led to a dead end.
Reporting in Cahokia, I'm Katherine Hessell, Fox 2 News.
It's a horrible hell.
Karen Mason describes her life as that since her daughter Sarah was shot and killed. Drew says that his sister was a nurturer, generous and giving. Karen says that Sarah was her best friend.
She was going to school at the community college, St. Charles Community College, for a business degree. And she wanted to open a daycare eventually.
In October of 2017, 20-year-old Sarah had moved out of her mother's house and into the first place of her own. 2 years earlier, Sarah had lost her father unexpectedly to pancreatic cancer. The family was now closer than ever. Now Sarah's new place was still just about a mile from her mom's house. That fall, Sarah was about 7.5 months pregnant.
Her having the baby at Christmas time was going to be just joyful, and we were just really looking forward to having an addition to the family.
Sarah had named her baby Milani. A baby shower was planned for the Sunday after Halloween. But before the shower came, a true horror story unfolded October 31st. As Karen was headed home from work, she got a call that something had happened at Sarah's house. When she got there, the street was blocked off with crime scene tape.
And then an officer started approaching me, so I knew at that point something wasn't good.
Sarah had been found by her then-boyfriend on the ground, bleeding from the back of her head.
Immediately after discovered, there were some circumstances found at the scene that really kind of threw out some question marks to the officers on the scene as well as to the medical examiner.
St. John Police Chief John Morris wouldn't go into detail, but says that at the scene, the medical examiner couldn't tell if Sarah had fallen, committed suicide, or if they had a homicide on their hands.
Forensic evidence was collected at the scene, and forensic evidence later determined that it was in fact a homicide.
Sarah had been shot in the back of the head. Karen says that Milani lived for an hour and a half after Sarah had been shot, but no one found either of them in time. Now, Chief Morris says that from the beginning, they had a person of interest.
We feel very confident as to who's responsible for this.
But it took 5 weeks to rule the death a homicide, so the scene wasn't initially processed as one, and no one was questioned that day. Morris says there are at least 3 to 5 people who know exactly what happened to Sarah and her baby and aren't saying anything.
There's people out there protecting this person. I have a problem with that. They're here to protect a cold-blooded murderer.
Karen says for a year, detectives told her not to tell anyone that her daughter's death was a homicide. Morris says that's because they were trying to build a bigger case. Karen wonders daily if that strategy hurt or helped Sarah and Milani's chances of justice.
Her story ended way too soon.
Milani was delivered post-mortem. Karen held her, and so did Sarah.
It's the first time Sarah's holding her baby was in her casket.
Now both of their ashes are inside of a light that sits by Karen. It's never been turned off, and Chief Morris says that this case is not cold, closed, or over. Reporting, I'm Katherine Hessell, Fox 2 News.